Hello and welcome back to the United Devils podcast. This week we're going to be looking back at United's positive wins against Tottenham Hotspur and Granada in the Premier League and Europa League respectively, and looking ahead to today's game against Burnley, which will be kicking off in just 1 hour. With me today, I welcome back Jason, and we'll get straight into it. And of course, it was another big showdown, Mourinho versus Solskjaer again. Obviously, United looking for revenge from that 6-1 loss at the beginning of the season, and Tottenham looking to claw back any chances at a Champions League finish. So with that in mind, Tottenham started actually quite brightly. They created a lot of chances. United weren't really, standard away performance from United, got into the game very slowly, should have opened the scoring, but VAR denied a perfectly fine goal for me.
Yeah.
And then Spurs, yeah. And then, obviously we'll talk about that in a second, but then Spurs immediately score down the other end, going at half-time a goal down and feeling quite hurt, but then come back and blitz them in the second half with some beautiful goals, beautiful football. Cavani winning the game, Greenwood sealing it off all ball after a Fred tap-in. Let's talk about the first half first, Jason.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, firstly, pretty poor from United.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, just off a couple of things you said, and number one, I'm so glad to be back. We haven't been able to make the schedules work in a really long time. I'm excited to be on. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we talk about older games, and I tend to have to jog my memory to think back to older games. That game, no, that is clear in my mind based on all the craziness that happened. And you mentioned VAR. We can do an entire hour podcast on VAR. I mean, it's just been crazy, the decisions that have been made left and right. And starting with the first half, like you said, that's a perfectly fine goal. I mean, yes, does Son get hit in the face inadvertently? Of course, but it's two guys battling for the ball. I mean, if you're going to call out a foul, you're going to call fouls on every pass, basically. Every long ball, every contested header, they're going to call a foul on if that's called a foul. But then it seemed to deflate United for a little while, that call going against them. And it, of course, when you concede right after that, it's a double, it's like a 2-goal swing, because you feel you should be 1-0 up and now you're 1-0 down. And it took getting to halftime with it being just 1-0 was a huge key, I think, for me. Because that first half, I mean, once Tottenham took the lead, it looked like more likely that it would be, them getting a second than us getting back into it. But I don't know. What did you think about the first half?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely everything you said I agree with. I think, United typically, I mean, Solskjaer said it himself, that they started like a team that had played on a Thursday night in Europe, and that's exactly what happened. It was just a bit slow, not quite at the races. Fred giving the ball away quite a lot, as we've seen against a defensive side against him. But then, lovely football for the opening goal that should have stood. Cavani and Pogba really, really good. Wan-Bissaka, it all started with him down the right-hand side, actually being in a really good attacking position. And then, the goal, I mean, I feel like it could have been avoided, but at the same time, it was great play from Spurs. I mean, Ndombele's pass to Kane was fantastic. The touch was beautiful, and Moura very unselfish. And Son, it was a good finish because Henderson was almost got there.
He almost did. It would have been an unbelievable save.
It would have been, yeah.
But yeah, and it's typical. It's how, I mean, we're used to it from Mourinho managing us and just knowing Mourinho for years and years. It's how they play. It's that counter-attacking. And when you have a player like Son who has pace and also skill, he's going to, beat people down the side, and he's going to be good on that first touch, and he's a great finisher. He really is. So it's exactly what you have to avoid when you play Tottenham, and when you play a Mourinho side, you have to avoid giving the ball away, and you give the ball away, and it's off to the races. It's how they play. But luckily for us, when Mourinho sides do get up 1-0, they usually offer you a chance to get back in the game. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and that's the stats back that up as well. I mean, I think they have lost the most points from leading positions in the Premier League this season. I think it's 7 times they've drop points from winning positions, or it might even be more. And we've gained more points from winning positions, from losing positions than any other team. So it shows our mental strength, or rather the team's mental strength in those kind of hard moments. But then again, you can say, you can come back and it can be grubby and bitter and a dirty win. But there was some sensational football being played by United. I mean, for the build-up, the first goal was magnificent. The second goal was equally excellent. I mean, who would you say was your standout player in that match?
To me, it's Cavani, and the reason why, I love target strikers, legit target strikers, and we haven't really had one for more than a season really since, gosh, I guess Van Persie, you'd have to say. I mean, Ibrahimovic, yes, but for just about a year, and then he was injured, and he was also obviously older. Although if he heard me say that, he'd probably slap me. But you could tell Tottenham had to focus their defense on him the whole time, because he gets a half a yard of space, he's scoring. It's that simple. I mean, and it makes the players around him. It all builds from the front in terms of an attack. If you have a guy like that they have to focus all their energy on, then you have all of a sudden the wings are open, the middle of the field's open. Pogba's able to do his thing. Bruno is able to take shots from range, and then all of a sudden they have to come up and defend him, and then Cavani finds that space and he's got a goal. And to me, it's Cavani. I know there could be cases made for a lot of people. I mean, Henderson was fantastic.
Maguire, excellent as well.
Maguire was very, very good.
Pogba
was phenomenal. Bruno was a force the whole time. So, I mean, I would go with Cavani, but I don't know. What do you think? Who would you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did the player ratings. I picked Pogba as my man of the match just because, he obviously had a point to prove. The fact that Mourinho was one of the biggest deflations of his confidence in that fateful season, and stripped him of his captaincy. And then this season, he struggled in the 6-1 loss, and also Mourinho was talking about how he dived. He did the hand reaction. I don't know if you remember that, but
yes, vaguely. I forgot it was in that game, but yes.
No, it was in a Villa game in January, I think it was. But it was that kind of stuff. So he had a point to prove. And I think he really made it. I mean, he was brilliant all game. He should have had 2 assists, if not more. I mean, he's playing, actually, I've just seen the lineup. He's playing as that off the right wing today. Cavani's on the bench. So he's going to play off the right wing, and he's going to be in that kind of free roaming space that he operated for Juventus, but also then you have the focal point of Fernandes as the real number 10. So Pogba can just do his thing. And it was just what he did against Spurs, and it worked a treat. So I don't see it being too much different against Burnley, but we'll obviously get onto that in a bit. More onto the table-wise, 7 points clear of Leicester. We're in second, they're in third. We are, I think, still 9 points clear of West Ham, although they've lost today. So they lost yesterday. So if we win today, we will go 12 points clear of them. I think they're in fourth, if I'm not mistaken.
They are at the moment.
Yeah. And then, we'd also go just 8 points behind Manchester City with level games played. So, things are still uncertain. Their dip in form is growing a little bit because they were poor against Dortmund but managed to win, but lost to Chelsea and Leeds. So it's going to be an interesting end to the season. But do you think we've secured top 4? Would you be happy with that, or are you still a little bit nervous?
You're always going to be a little nervous just because you've seen crazy things in football. But what's funny is I'm simultaneously worried about the top 4 while still thinking, hey, we still have a shot at the title. So I don't know how those two things jive.
That's Manchester United.
Like, you would think if you're like, oh, we have a shot at this title, you would be like, well, we've got top 4 logged in or whatever, or locked up. But I mean, obviously you always got to look between the gap between you and 5th. That's kind of, that's where how secure your top 4 places. And obviously West Ham sitting in 4th, but Chelsea has a game in hand. So if they win that game, they'll jump West Ham. And it's about an 8-point gap or whatever it is between us and fifth. So it's pretty secure. You worry about that dip in form because that's how it just goes with this team and this whole season, really. But you also hope for that dip in form with City because we've seen it before. We've seen teams get chased down in the last few weeks of the season. And if it ever got cut to 2 points on Judgment Day, or even 3 points with goal differential, a thing, because obviously the goal differential will creep closer if they continue to lose games and we continue to win them. Because you just that team that's I mean, they were handed the trophy 10 games ago. Everyone handed them the trophy. So that's like they'd be the team with all the pressure. Like they would, and you know how pressure deals with football teams. Like teams facing, like we've seen it. I mean, and this is a good lead-in for us to talk about semifinals. We've seen us play completely different football in semifinals of competitions. We look totally different. No confidence, literally trouble passing from one, from a halfback to a midfielder. We've seen trouble with passes like that and turn into goals, or a keeper trying to just tap the ball to Maguire. We've seen that turn into a goal, in games. So, or just inability to finish basic chances. It's like, so if Man City ever was in that position with that much pressure on them, you wonder how they fare. You really would.
Exactly. Because, I mean, you think about their titles, and bar one, they'd run away, but maybe one or two, they'd run away with it. I think Liverpool hunting them down, the onus was on Liverpool to catch up. Right. Liverpool dropped points, and then City were just going to run away with it. And then last day of the season, there was a little bit of nerves, but they ended up winning that game 4-1 or something, so it really didn't matter. Their FA Cup games, the Carabao Cup games have all been pretty smooth sailing. It's just every Champions League they've bottled at one stage or the other. The Tottenham one, the Lyon one, which was just one match they only needed to win, and they couldn't do that. Just awful errors left, right, and centre. So you do question that, and you never know what can happen in football. It's a beautiful game, but it's also a mysterious game for a reason. But let's talk about those semi-finals, because of course United booked their place in the Europa League semi-final for a second season running after beating Granada 4-0 on aggregate, with 2 goals in the second leg coming from Cavani's 50th European goal in his career and an own goal from Jehu Vallejo. So we're not going to talk about the game, because the game was sort of, United were happy to sort of let Granada try their best and defend. Never got out of second gear. But the semi-final, it's against Roma. Few United old boys in Smalling and Mkhitaryan, and obviously we know about Pedro as well. It's, Roma aren't the best team in Italy, and we've already played some difficult sides in the competition already. I think this is probably an easier team than, say, Sociedad or AC Milan. However, it's a semi-final, so we know how United, like you said, we know how United can play in a semi-final. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the game. But do you see it being, obviously with 2 legs, do you see this being a much easier challenge for United than, say, the semi-final against Sevilla?
I think Sevilla is a much better team. I mean, I could be wrong about that, but in my opinion, I just think Sevilla is a better team. I think Sevilla, whenever they've dropped to Europa League, they've always been similar to United, actually, a Champions League team hiding in Europa, right? Yeah. Whereas some teams are just Europa teams, like you would say Arsenal is a Europa team. But I just feel like for us, it almost doesn't matter who we play in the semifinal. I mean, we could be playing West Brom in a semifinal. We just have a mental block at this point, and it's become almost similar to the narrative where if we go behind, we still gain points. or if Mourinho sides go ahead, they still drop points. It's become a narrative where this team is just used to losing semifinals. So there's going to be a moment where, I don't know, Roma gets an away goal, or we have a penalty that we miss, or a controversial VAR call that robs us of a goal, or something. And the temptation is for the supporters and even the team. Here we go again. Yep, the semifinal. This is what happens. So we have to be mentally strong. Cannot let that. You almost have to pretend it's not a semifinal. I don't know.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I thought the win away at Leicester to secure top 4 would really help us with this stuff, because that really was like a cup tie. But I don't know. It's to me, they have to get over that hump. They have to figure out a way, because they played great against Granada. They bossed that team over 2 legs. They played phenomenal in the second half against Tottenham. We've seen them play just football at the level of top sides in the world.
Yeah.
But then we've seen them lose to Crystal Palace, and we've seen them even last year, because it was the same sort of situation, not a semifinal, but a quarterfinal. We saw them need to pull out all the stops to get past a relegation side.
Yeah.
Needing a last 110th minute winner from Maguire.
Yeah.
To get past Norwich. I mean, this is just, I don't know. What do you think? To me, it's just, it's.
I think it's a learning curve with this young side. I think the fact is this is one of the youngest sides in the Premier League this season. I think that it is clearly showing that it's still got a bit of naivety and a little bit of inexperience, which is, it's okay. But then if it keeps going on, then there's a problem, because that Carabao Cup loss earlier this season to Manchester City was more about Manchester City being back to their very best, more than us being unable to get ready for a semi-final. But then the Leicester City game clearly was fatigue. I mean, you could tell the difference between the teams. I mean, Leicester had played 2 games in the same amount of time. United have played 5.
Right.
So
and you could see Leicester really wanted that game. It meant everything to them to win that game.
I know. And it's time for them to really show how much it's going to mean for them today, because obviously they're playing the semi-final tonight. So it's going to make a difference for them. Their season could change, because they could bottle top 4 the way their home form's going and the way their league form's going. So a cup win would be huge for them. But that remains to be seen. I just think they have to win this semi-final, even if they lose in the final. Obviously they want to win a trophy. They need to win a trophy. But if they get past that semi-final block, it is just the next step in the development. Even if they lose, they'll have got a little bit further, but it's not acceptable, but it's at least, a silver lining in a bad situation, I guess, is that. But obviously they want to win. The players, the manager have all come out and saying, we want to win trophies. We know we've got to win trophies. We could also need to push ourselves in the league as well. And so they have to win it. They have to win the Europa League. And that's really the bottom line of that, I think.
I mean, at some point, I agree with you on its face about the young team situation. And I think if you take the emotion out of it and step back for a second and really think about it, you have to say this is much better than it's been for the better part of 5 years,
Yep.
And even the Mourinho side that won the weird treble, what if you want to call it a treble. I mean, I know Mourinho does. And I know at times I've referred to it as that, that team wasn't that good.
No.
And it really won competitions that most teams don't take seriously, including Europa, But this side is better, but there's always that but about it. yeah, there's much better. It's better football. We've got young talent, and we've got the academies producing. Yeah, but you can't win a semifinal. But it's much better, and it looks more like United football, and we've got great players, and we really are, pushing up in the league form. Yeah, but City's going to win the league, and you still haven't won a trophy since Mourinho left. So those narratives are still in the bank for opposing side fans, and even for our own fans, the Ole out crowd, because rightly or wrongly, and that's one thing Mourinho did get, it's about trophies here. It's about winning titles. Like, we said it last year, like, all of us were happy we made Champions League, but it needed to be a stepping stone to next level.
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
We're second place, and we're going to get Champions League again, most likely, barring some crazy disaster. But it's still not good enough. Even if we win Europa, it's still not good enough. But we need, like you said before, the side needs something tangible. They need to get that step from being a young, dangerous team to, wow, this team is really, really good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to me, Europa, they have to win it. They just have to. I mean, I can't really analyze it more than that. So, it's just
I can sort of say that you're right. I think the thing is that what we all said last year was third and 3 semi-finals is progress but not success. I think that's what we said then. And now what I'd say is second place is progress. The development on the team is progress.
Yeah.
Considering all the mitigating circumstances at the beginning of the season, no preseason, huge amount of injuries,
no support,
the COVID as well, basically, and also the fact that next week will be our first midweek off all season long, shows how heavily we've the fixture list has been for United.
Oh, we've played what, like 55 games or something like that?
Yeah. It's astonishing. And we're almost lucky that we didn't have to play 2 legs of the Carabao Cup semi-final, and almost lucky that we didn't have to play any FA Cup replays. It went to extra time against West Ham. So otherwise it would have been a lot more. But, I think the thing is that they need to have, like you said, some tangible end product from this season. Europa League is a must. It answers a few critics, silences it answers a few questions and silences a few critics even. But one thing I would say is that something I haven't I've only been thinking about a little bit, but the biggest difference, forget the points, forget the goals scored, forget the defending record, forget the personnel. The biggest difference between Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's United and Jose Mourinho's United is that we were surprised when Jose Mourinho played attacking football, fluid football. We're shocked when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't. I think that's the biggest difference.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, and that's the biggest step in the right direction, I think. And I think they just need, like you said, the Europa League to cap off what would be a very good season. But those brief moments in the Champions League, the Sheffield United result, and all sorts. But we'll move on though. We had our poll result come out early, well, actually a couple of days ago. And it was on Jesse Lingard. Should he stay at United and try and fight his way back to the starting 11, maybe become a squad player in a trophy-laden team, perhaps? Or should he be sold, say, to West Ham or Leicester or whoever wants him? Apparently Real Madrid, AC Milan all want him as well. Sell him for 30, 40 million and recoup some money that we can use to rebuild some of the squad. What's your take?
Well, if I was Jesse Lingard, if I was him, actually, I want to go to West Ham. I'd want to stay there because it's working out. Mm-hmm. They love him there. He's a focal point of the team. He's in the lineup every week. He is having a lot of success. The team is having success. I don't know if he comes back here. If the same situation just befalls him again, where he has the confidence struggles. And, this was a kid who has been very open with dealing with mental anxiety and mental issues, playing for a top club and not having success. So if I were him, I wouldn't demand to be sold, but I would want to be sold to West Ham, as Arsenal just equalized, except it may be VAR'd out again.
Oh, really? Wow.
But
Eddie Nketiah, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna see.
Wow.
Let's see. Oh man, but yeah, I would want to be sold, but I mean, for United, I always felt Lingard made the squad stronger. I mean, he's a guy who can bring off the bench, who can change a game with his pace and skill. And we are a squad that plays roughly 60 games a year.
Yeah.
Need like when Sir Alex had it going, and I hate being that guy, like, oh, we're back in the good old days, because it's like frustrating for people. But we literally could roll two sides of 11.
Yeah.
And either side could probably finish within the top 7 of the Premier League.
Yeah.
Like, the backups could have been a squad that stayed up, right? So to build a squad like that, you need players like that. But sometimes you have a guy like Lingard who, when he sits, it's confident, it shakes his confidence. And others, you have a guy like Mata who could sit for weeks on end and then go in and he's fine. He doesn't need to play at this stage of his career. Part of it's because he's older. Or a guy like Ashley Young who could sit forever, and then you could plug him in at center back and he'd be fine,
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if Lingard's that type of guy. So I feel like he needs to play week in, week out. I feel like he needs to be in a situation that's not like pressure packed. So what do you think?
No, I absolutely agree. I think the thing is that some players shine better when the spotlight is dimmer. And Lingard's certainly one that needs a lot more space in order to operate. He needs to be able to have time to run and make his runs forward and create his chances. And he gets that at West Ham, where he wouldn't get that 90% of the time at United. Has the goal stood?
It looks like it is. I'm looking at it right now. Sorry, that's why I'm turned away.
It's all right.
But I don't know how this one's going to stand, and the other one was waved off.
So it is offside? Is that the question?
No, they've given it. It's been allowed.
Oh, wow. Well,
so we're now
the crucial goal.
8.5 minutes into stoppage time. Of course, they're going to have to say at least 2 minutes they were waiting. It would be amazing if Arsenal pulled this out. That would be sickening for Fulham and so typical for Fulham.
Yeah, I know.
Now it's final. It's gone final. So it's a 1-1 draw. I mean, at least Fulham got something out of the game, but wow, what a crazy game.
Obviously, it puts more pressure on Burnley, who play us in about half an hour. But
that would have been huge had that held, because they would have been on 29 points. But now if Burnley gets something out of our game, the Brighton's still right there too. So I don't know. I guess we'll get into that if we have some time, the relegation battle. But wow, what a crazy VAR.
Well, I mean, I think one thing about VAR is that a lot of people say, "Oh, VAR is a disgrace," but then kind of forget about the fact that it's the English referees that use it. Like VAR, its idea is actually, getting lots of decisions right. It's normally the subjective ones, the ones where there's a little bit of, a grey area where there's a problem, and that's normally due to the refereeing decisions. I think, in my personal opinion, I think that's the problem. But like you said, we could go on for an hour about this. We won't try to. Hopefully it won't come and bite on us in half an hour. But what I was going to say, Lingard needs space, and I think if we can get, he's upped his value by scoring 9 times in the league in 8 games, and so I think if we can get 30 million, 35 million for him, maybe in a swap deal with Declan Rice, I wouldn't say no to that at all.
I wouldn't say no to that either. I think it's best for both players involved. I really do.
Absolutely, yeah, I think so. What I would say is that, if he wants to stay at United, I obviously wouldn't mind seeing him as a squad player. I wouldn't want to see him as as an option instead of, say, Jadon Sancho, because I think, if you say, well, we've got Lingard, we don't need Sancho, that's very much not the case.
No. Well,
But
I
we'll
mean,
have to see how that turns out.
you have to be careful of a lot of fans look at players who switch squads on a swap deal or a loan deal
Mm.
and go, "Oh, look at him, man! Like he could be doing that for us." When the fact is, Lingard, like, who's he going to play over? That's the
Yeah,
thing, right?
exactly.
Like, he needs to be in Greenwood's role or Fernandez's role or Rashford's role. Is he better than those guys? I don't know. I don't.
No.
I mean, he had like 5 years to prove it. Didn't.
Mm.
So, I mean, part of it is because I've watched West Ham. Like you said, he has space. He knows he's in the squad every week, and he basically has free reign to do whatever he wants all over the field, and not really defend, to be
Yeah.
honest. So I'm not trying to take anything away from the player. I think Lingard, what it is what I'm saying is this is a perfect fit for him. Like, it's not that he's a bad player. It's not that he's, he's not capable of doing this at United. But I think fans get this feeling that, oh, we can just throw him on for 2 minutes and he'll score a goal. Like, no,
Yeah.
it's not how it works. I mean, sometimes it is, but not very often.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know.
No, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. I think that if we get some good money for him, that will be best for both parties, because then he can then enjoy his football, because that's the biggest thing for him. I think he enjoys playing, and I think that is why he's flourishing at West Ham. He's actually had the time to play. But we'll move on, because obviously we've got not long left till the game starts, actually. So we should talk about the preview.
Yep.
United play Burnley in half an hour's time. Team obviously came out about half an hour ago with Henderson in goal, Wan-Bissaka right back, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw completing the back four.
Mm-hmm.
It's McTominay and Fred in midfield with a attacking quartet of Pogba, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, and Mason Greenwood. So it looks like Greenwood's going to be up front. Pogba's going to be in a kind of free role like he was against Tottenham. Rashford on the left, Bruno as number 10, and then McTominay and Fred in the midfield pivots. I haven't seen the Burnley side, but I assume it's a 4-4-2, which is going to defend with its life and try and just pump the ball forward and see what they can do.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It looks like they're calling it a 4-5-1, but I think it's a 4-4-2. They've got Peacock in goal. Looks like Taylor, May, Tarkowski, Loughton, which is pretty much their quartet for the most part.
Yeah.
McNeil is playing the left side, and they got Cork in the midfield with Westwood and Brownhill. Goodmanson on the right, and then they're calling Wood their target center, or target center. I'm just a hockey these days. Their target forward. I don't know if
that looks like a 4-5. That looks like a 4-5-1 to me, or maybe 4-2-3-1. I think it's what it is. Is it's going to be a big bank of 5 in the midfield.
I was going to say it's going to be more like. I mean, they could call it a 4-5-1, 4-4-2, 4-3. They can call it whatever they want. It's probably going to be more like a 9-1, to be honest. most of the game.
No, absolutely agree.
Yeah, at least that's how it should look.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like getting Greenwood a start. I like seeing how he's going to look up front. I think he's the best option to be our next target forward. I'd like to see him play how he plays in the air, but every time I've asked a question of Greenwood, the answer's been yes. Because last year I asked the question, okay, well, he's scoring goals, but can he pass the ball? And yeah, he can. Yes. We saw that last week. Mm-hmm. That cross to Cavani was unreal. It was perfect. And we've seen his footballing sense. Sometimes guys come on and they just know. Like Rashford was a bit like that at the beginning. Like he had a nose for goal, but not much else. And then developed this game. I'd like to see Greenwood get a run. I like to see how he looks in this role, because it's I don't know. Would you consider him a target forward or not really? Is it?
I think long term, yes. I think he's good off the right. I think his passing and crossing has got a lot better. I think while Martial is injured, he's a great option as a striker with Cavani obviously there as well, and he obviously is the best player on the right hand side for me at United at the moment. I think when Martial's fit, I would still like to see him competing with Cavani, Greenwood competing with, say, hopefully we get Sancho in the summer, and you have that, and then maybe Ahmad gets a little bit more time to develop himself because I think he's still a little bit raw.
He's very raw.
And so is Pellistri, for that matter. But yeah, I see long term. Maybe when Cavani leaves next year, I see Greenwood being pushed on with competing with Martial, maybe even with Haaland or Kane if we can get one of them, and then we go from there because I expect Martial to bounce back from the bad season this season, and I hope Cavani can stay as well.
Yeah, I'd like Cavani to stay for another year, but it's kind of a catch-22, right? Because on the one hand, Cavani is undoubtedly your best option still at target forward. We saw that last week. But on the other, is it putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm, right? Like, he's going to have trouble with fitness. He's older. He's going to have trouble playing the amount of games we need him to play to be like, at some point you need to find the long-term solution with striker. And by long-term, I don't mean 10, 20 years. It's not the case. I mean like a good 3-4 year solution like we had with even Van Persie. That was like 2 to 3 years where you knew who your starting striker was every week.
Yeah.
We haven't had that since Rooney.
Well, Ibra was our starting striker, I think.
I guess that was, but for a year, right? Yeah, exactly.
Oh, sure. You mean for long term? I see. Yeah.
Like, we don't know.
No, I agree.
Like, and I'm not normally 2 years from now, what are you going to do kind of guy, but we honestly don't know who our starting striker is next year.
No,
we don't know.
True. No, I guess not. I guess that's kind of due to this season, just how Cavani. Well, we don't know if he's going to stay because obviously, in these sort of difficult times, he's missed his family and he hasn't had people around. Adapting to England has been obviously quite tough. Martial he's had a really, really bad season based on the season before, and has had some bad injuries, drop of confidence due to the red card, all sorts of reasons. And Greenwood's had his own troubles too, but is starting really, really strong. And we don't know whether he's going to come in. Obviously, there's links to Kane and links to Andre Silva and Haaland as well, who I don't see leaving this summer at least.
No.
But, there's all sorts of things up in the air. But what I would say is that I think Ollie wants Cavani to stay. I think Cavani's still on the fence, but I think hopefully if we have a good end to the season, maybe see a few fans back at the end. You never know. United could sway him and he could sign a new deal. I think he's supposed to make his decision by the end of April. So we'll see from that. But quickly on Burnley, one thing I did see was if you compare the side this season to the side that lost to Burnley last season at Old Trafford, I mean, it's De Gea in goal with, no different from Dean Henderson, but Wan-Bissaka and Maguire are the same, but it's Phil Jones and Brandon Williams on the other side, Fred and Matic, then James, Mata, Pereira, and Martial. Night and day. That shows progress, does it not?
Night and day. And I have my differences with the Nick-Fred combination, but they have at least begun to develop a partnership. And just having Bruno and Pogba is that's a totally different situation. And being able to bring Cavani off the bench, that's one thing that's been missing too from the squad that's not really been talked about much. But if things were going badly for United last year, there was people would say, get all over Ole's tactics, and his tactics sometimes leave something to be desired. But the reality too is, what match-changing guy was he bringing off the bench last year? Like, what is he going to throw Mata on or McTominay? I mean, heck,
Taith Chong.
Who?
Taith Chong.
Yeah, right. They didn't even have, as bad as it was a few years ago, they didn't even have an option of bringing a Fellaini on to say, let's just try long balls and headers. Like, let's just try something different. Like, we had our attack. If it wasn't working, it wasn't working.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's one of those things, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
just the amount of depth we've allowed to get and invest in has helped hugely. But we still need a little bit more to compete for more on a higher level in more competitions and do all sorts, and even compete with City, who are still, I think, the best team in England. But I still think, they still have that little bit of a nervous side to them. But we still don't have that kind of bench where their bench is Bernardo Silva, Gabriel Jesus, or Aguero, whoever it is, Mahrez, and then Ferran Torres and Rodri, and
they have guys.
Sorry?
I was going to say, they have guys on their bench that would instantly be in our 11. Instantly. Mahrez would play, I think.
Yeah, Torres would probably as well.
Bernardo for sure. 100% he'd play somewhere.
Sorry, yeah, absolutely. But I'm just losing you a little bit. There's a little bit of static. So we'll finish up quite quickly and just say predictions for today's game. Do you see it being a standard tight game against Burnley, or do you think United could pull away with, the strong team out now?
Yeah, I feel like we should win. There's a couple things going against us. One, it's at Old Trafford, which has not been good. That's not been a good thing. And of course, Burnley have absolutely nothing to lose. They could go out there and play aggressively, which almost we would kind of welcome that, because I feel like that would leave them vulnerable. Or they could pack it in and say, whatever, we'll go for a 0-0. And if you can beat us, you can beat us. And then it may end up being 0-0. So that's one thing going against us. And then the other thing going against us is it's Burnley. Like they know they have the confidence that they can get a result from a game against us. So I see it being nip and tuck, like a 0-0 for a long while, and then us breaking through. I could see a 1-0.
Yeah, I think based on how we know we can make a big difference in the race for top four and the way we can narrow the gap to City, I think they'll start quickly. United. I don't know whether they can score quickly, but you can see it being a 2-0 win where you get like a first half goal and then counter attack in the second half or something. I don't know, but I can see it being a horrible, horrible game, or I can see it being quite an interesting one for United side. But I'm going to say we're going to win, but I think it could be anywhere between 1 and 2 goals. I don't see it being higher than that.
Yeah,
even though they can concede 5-0 to City 3 years in a row, they won't do it against us for some reason. So I am still a little bit nervous going into this game.
Yeah, and part of it is, again, weirdly, I know there's no supporters there, but we just haven't played that great at Old Trafford. It's almost like we need to go a goal down on the road in order to start playing well. Like, it's kind of been a theme. Like, okay, we're losing, now we'll play well.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's just one of those things is that they need to snap up and focus before they can actually start playing their best football. But, this team's a weird one, but it's certainly one that does know how to grind out results, even, in weird circumstances. So we'll have to see how that turns out.
Like,
sorry, you go.
I could see them.
Sorry?
Like, if it all breaks well, I could see them winning easily. I could see them winning 5-0. You know what I mean? If everything clicks and they score early, they maybe get a couple on the board in the first 15 minutes or something. But we can also see that typical thing where we have like 17 shots and somehow no goals.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like you said,
it's a really tricky
time. It's impossible to get a gauge on this squad. I can't do it. I don't know. Whatever I expect to happen, because I usually, with the football betting, I look at the over-unders. When I think it's going to be an under, it goes over. When I think it's going to be clearly a 0-0, it's like we had that run of form against top 6 sides where it was 0-0 like every week. And then we scored a goal in the first minute against City. So I don't know.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be I don't know. Like you said, it's difficult to say, but I can definitely see it being a difficult game. But one silver lining is that we have our first week off, like we said, in the whole season will be between Burnley and Leeds, but then we go away. I think we go away to Roma first, then host Liverpool, and then back at home for the second leg. So it's going to be then another tricky run of games in the run-in for United, and hopefully they can try and get some positive results from that. I'm afraid that is all we have time for this week. Thank you for listening, and thank you for joining me, Jason. It's a pleasure having you on after a long time, actually.
Yeah, thank you. It's been rough. It's hard. I mean, for those who don't know, I'm in the States and Argen's in England, so we've got this 5-hour time gap. Then we had the clocks changed, so it was 4 hours, and it was 5 hours again. So it's hard to get on the same schedule. Hard to get on the same schedule. But we did it.
Well, hopefully try and sort some. Well, we could probably do this sort of time, regularly.
This is a pretty good one.
It's a good one, especially over the weekend. Mm-hmm. But if you have any questions or topics you'd like for us to discuss next time, please comment below on the Twitter poll or on the live chat during the podcast. And if you enjoyed this, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on Twitter for